It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and Clark the Kid.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom for movies, comics, TV shows, video games. We got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here as always with Court. Court, we're doing what we do best, talking about multiverses.
Yeah, this project was built on a multiverse.
Pretty much. Yeah. We're talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. What else can you say that hasn't been said?
Yeah. I mean, just quick, this movie is phenomenal. This movie's great. Lived up to the hype expectation. I just really can't wait to dive into this one. A lot happened in this movie as well. But most importantly about this movie, it's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of energy, and I really appreciate what Lord and Miller are able to kind of create and kind of put Miles Morales at the forefront, make him super prominent.
Yeah. Everything and then some. It was exactly like you said. I mean, this movie was 5 years in the making. Into the Spider-Verse, regarded as one of the best superhero movies of all time. And, you know, how do you one-up that? And somehow they managed to in ways that go beyond the technical stuff. Because, I mean, obviously the technical stuff, which was already kind of this massive achievement, and they somehow managed to one-up even the technical stuff. So, yeah, we're going to dive into that. And so much more surrounding that movie, moments, characters, all that stuff, because there's so much there. But first, we do have some news, and first and foremost, Tom Cruise is waging a war on Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain this?
Sure. So, Paramount essentially is releasing Mission Impossible, what is it, in between Indiana Jones and obviously the Barbieheimer Nexus Day that's gonna take place on July 21st. So Mission Impossible is taking place within that time. So apparently Tom Cruise is kind of upset that Mission Impossible is only gonna last in IMAX for a week versus Oppenheimer's gonna have 3 weeks of full out IMAX showing. So what was happening is Tom Cruise was calling different execs, different people, just try to get more screen time for Mission Impossible to breathe, which is insane. And apparently he's livid at this. So if you didn't think this was the type of news we were starting with, then you were wrong. And I mean, this is more of a Paramount issue, if you want to think about it. Paramount not being self-aware. And I mean, we did talk about it, and we joke about it every week, and now we're here, that June, July is packed, absolutely jam-packed with content.
Me about it.
We're not going to be able to sleep or eat. We're only going to be watching stuff for the next 2 months of our lives.
Still not quite sure how we're going to navigate this Barbie Oppenheimer situation.
I know exactly how we're going to do it. We're going to do both of them at the same. We're going to take our category show at the end, and we're going to build it into which movie was better, actually. And we're going to pick which. We're going to build categories, and we're going to pick which movie had the better that. Had the better Ryan Gosling. Barbie. Uh-oh. You're already in one old Oppenheimer.
That's the day I'm dreading this day.
I can't wait for that day. I cannot wait. I know we're going to go into Oppenheimer and then we're going to go into Barbie, and there's going to be people from the movie that are going to walk into that movie. I can't wait. But yeah, Tom Cruise is just not having it about this too. And I mean, this is just the state of movie going at this point, unless you're, a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie. There's only a certain amount of filmmakers that garner this so much attention. And fortunately for Tom Cruise, it is Christopher Nolan that is one of those filmmakers that garner that as well. And he didn't need a Top Gun Maverick to do it. He's had that for how many years of his life too. It is unfortunate. I mean, just as a movie lover, and a really big fan of this Mission Impossible series, like I do want to see this movie. I had been calling it that the Fallout is one of the best action movies ever made, and I couldn't wait to see the sequel for it. So, hopefully he gets a little bit more screen times, but I don't know if they delay this movie, but I think it's too late to delay the movie. I think it's etched in stone, so we shall see. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you kind of did this to yourself, Paramount. You have done that to yourself.
Yes.
It's but I mean, this is kind of I wouldn't say an unprecedented time in movies, because I'm sure stuff like this has happened before where everything is kind of just crammed into one space, but this is the first time in a long time anyway that this has happened, where it's like one after the other after the other after the other. And you know,
I mean, just the 3 weeks or the 4 weeks, it's Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers, The Flash, and then Indiana Jones. Like that's 4 major releases from
Fast X came out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, like from major studios, all these. So
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right, exactly. Like and then you started the year off with Ant-Man to Creed, and then we had a bit of breathing room, and now it's on.
Yeah,
and we were having other TV shows in that time that were massive going on. So
yeah, it's kind of crazy, but I mean, and you know, all these movies. Hopefully there's enough movie viewing to go around for all these films, but I mean, they are gonna kind of eat into each other a little bit. I mean, Fast X is already hitting streaming, I think, next week,
right?
Which is kind of nuts, but I think that more has to do with like Universal. Right, they're kind of quick to pull the trigger on their streaming stuff. So, but it just goes to show you where we're at right now with the movie world. It's a good world to be living in.
Yeah, for us.
Yeah, for us.
Not for Tom Cruise right now.
Not for Tom Cruise. Speaking of The Flash, the director, Andy Muschietti, is apparently going to be getting another gig with DC, as he's going to be directing the Batman Brave and the Bold movie that we talked about when James Gunn did his kind of Kevin Feige impression and did his little synopsis of everything that's coming out. This is a Batman, Damian Wayne project. Yeah. And Andy Muschietti appears to be one of kind of this staple directors that James Gunn is going to lean on. Yeah, the early goings of the DC universe.
I could very much see Andy Muschietti being one of those directors that people kind of go after in like the, in this kind of fandom world. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Star Wars gives him a call to do something. And one of the good things I've heard about this Flash movie is that his direction's actually pretty solid, especially in some of the more tender moments as well. So that makes me pretty excited. I mean, that kind of, I like to call it like the ballad of Damian Wayne is pretty interesting. I mean, Damian Wayne was a character that was just vehemently hated when he was put in the comics, but now is like one of the more iconic characters too. So I think that's awesome that he's essentially getting his second Batman movie. That was a joke. But yeah, I think it's probably a solid direction. It's somebody that's already been in the DC wing, and been through the DC, mud a little bit too. Had to make a movie during, the overhaul of the DC studios too. So, if it's somebody that they're putting their faith and trust in to, get this Flash movie, probably one of the more controversial comic book movies that are being released, I think they think it's in good hands, then I think that is a good decision to kind of give him, this iteration of Batman that has to be different than Robert Pattinson's Batman, than Matt Reeves' Batman movie, that needs to draw differences and to kind of bring, one of the more, younger, cool, characters into the limelight in live action with Damian Wayne.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I always thought this film was a good idea because it's just a different take on Batman from what we've seen in other films, where it's not an origin story. Nope. It's not even like the Ben Affleck Dark Knight Returns version. It's just Batman and his son.
And one thing I do like about it too, it's this idea that it's prime We're just picking up with prime Batman. I do really appreciate that too. So apparently the way he kind of bills out, though, he was obviously he didn't write this movie at all. This movie's been written for the last 10 years of our lives about but I do think that's pretty cool. Apparently, he really knows how to kind of craft the world, too. So, my only ask is maybe some practicality in the filmmaking would be nice instead of relying fully out on the CGI. But yeah, I think he's got a bright future. He's had a good career already, but he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just, like I said with all these DC things, we gotta wait and see. Yeah. Especially with this Flash movie. The mixed signals are mixing with what this movie actually is. So we'll see. We'll see in a couple weeks, which is the fun part. Speaking of things changing around, so Anthony Mackie hopped on the Instagram today, posted a nice little picture of him and Harrison Ford. Yeah. Harrison Ford is indeed in this Captain America movie. A Captain America movie that has a new title. Yes. So it'll be Captain America: A Brave New World, and it's coming out May 4th of next year. Yep. Which feels really soon.
But they have been shooting this movie for a little bit. And this movie probably I guarantee you, they probably were already working on all the ideas for all this before Captain America, or before Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out. They probably had the inception that this was always the plan to make sure Anthony Mackie gets his own movie after that. And I think the show was successful enough to garner that too. So they probably have been working on this for a little bit, but it's probably a smart move to change the name. My only concern is to change the name so late into the game, because we think that it's 11 months away, but that's still kind of close in terms of like where your development and where they were in shooting too. The only other news from this movie is that we got a new suit. Got a new Sam Wilson suit. It's very much like how Captain America was in the first one, and to jump to that stealth suit in the second one. That's what it feels like. So
yeah, I like the new suit. I would have preferred them to keep the white one, just because
maybe for just a part of the movie.
Yeah,
maybe they will.
But yeah, I mean, Harrison Ford's there.
Yeah, Harrison Ford's there. He looks
like Harrison Ford.
He looks content.
He looks like Harrison Ford.
Content for Harrison Ford is like euphoria for every other human. So.
Yes, this is very true.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to that movie. I think
too.
The concept is nuts. So if they do take the swings that I think they might take, obviously, and then I forgot which wrestler it was is playing one of the members of the Serpent Society.
Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is going to be in
which
this.
is pretty cool. So yeah, this movie, and I think it's going to be first act the Serpent Society's there. Second act, John Walker's back. The post-credit scene is going to be like, that dang Captain America shouldn't be Captain America. Here's the Thunderbolts. So that movie could have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I think so. I think,
you guys said that Tiamat didn't matter, and look at you now.
Like I said, I still have...
Wolverine post-credit scene?
Don't start this.
Sorry. I've become the very thing I swore to destroy.
I mean, there's still things about this movie that I'm not concerned about, but like... We talked about it, like how I felt like they were kind of steering the ship away from Sam Wilson a little bit.
Yeah,
and I was
Yeah, and then we're going to talk about it with Across the Spider-Verse, and then we just got Guardians of the Galaxy. But I feel like a lot of these movies there's going to be a layer of pressure put on a lot of these movies, because we're out of the era of these movies just being able to be okay and surviving. I think that's over. And I think Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was the last nail in the coffin for these movies being average, and people being like, wait, this actually was bad. There's no, this actually was not good, and we're not going to accept it. And then you get a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, you get movies like Across the Spider-Verse, and to be like, why can't all these movies operate at this level? So that's going to be another litmus test for the new age of Marvel.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of true cinema, The Rock is back in Fast X. Spoiler alert, we talked about it last week. One of the greatest post-credit scenes maybe ever. Was
it better than the own post-credit scene he built into Black Adam? He did the same thing.
So him and Vin Diesel squashed their beef.
Was there ever...
your conspiracy
theory that there never was any beef, and they built all this to have one of the greatest comebacks in cinema history?
And then I took it a step further and said that they purposely sent him to do Black Adam to bomb so that he could make an even grander return to the Fast franchise.
Yep.
And look at it. It worked.
Vin Diesel pulled him in his office, and he's just like, little brother, you got to make sure this movie's bad so we can make a great ending to this.
And look, it worked.
It did.
Because guess what? Hobbs is getting his own film.
It's not a sequel to Hobbs and Shaw.
Nope. It's an in-betweenquel.
In-betweenquel. And I think this will be the movie that is setting up the finale for Fast X, which kind of makes sense.
So this is going to be like...
Remember when they used to race cars?
This is going to be like the other side. So we got Dante Reyes beating Dom Toretto at the end of Fast X, and now he's going to go up against Hobbs, the other half of his master plan.
Right.
And presumably beat Hobbs. And then Hobbs and Dom are going to team up.
It's going to be a very Avengers Endgame beginning part, like where everybody's sad and everybody's getting back together. And then they're going to have to go through time to beat Dante Reyes.
I told you they have to do time travel. It's the only way that they can do this.
Let us write this last one.
Dom's going to put his arm on Hobbs and be like, I lost the kid.
Yeah. We know. He said,
Hobbs going to be like, we all lost.
We all lost. That movie's going to end with, Dom going to Dante and be like, I'm going to give you the one... Like, we're going to find out that, Dante's mother, died when he was a kid. And then he's going to go back to a period in time where his mother was alive. And then Dom's going to be like, I'm going to give you something you never had. Family.
I told you we needed a roll cage around the world. You weren't there, Hobbs, and we lost. Just do Avengers Endgame with the Fast and Furious characters.
We're not going to get Brian back. Will you go take your car and you talk to him?
He looks over at Tyrese. What's wrong with him?
He said, he thinks we lost, and then we all lost.
Oh man, I can't wait. Give me more of this ridiculous universe. So before we talk about Across the Spider-Verse, there were a couple Spider-Man adjacent things that happened
in lieu of the premiere of this movie, the premiere date,
because they were like, we got something with
we're bulletproof at this point.
Yeah. So they were just like, here's everything that we're gonna do. So an animated Spider-Woman feature, which I guess makes sense. Yeah. We'll talk about her a little bit.
You think it is going to be Issa Rae's Spider-Woman, or you think they're going to do, like, Jessica Drew Spider-Woman? Well, I mean, she is Jessica Drew, but...
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows with this...
Who's to say?
Who's with this wacky Spider-Man universe?
I'm in, though. I'm in on whatever they do.
We're getting... Obviously, we know we're getting Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Tom Holland and Zendaya.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I told you before we hopped on. I think it was a case of Zendaya probably was not going to be in this movie, and they were going to find a new, probably college Gwen Stacy, but then I think they thought to themselves, that's Zendaya, so we probably shouldn't not put her in this movie, because it's like she's one of the most famous people on the planet, so... Which is fine.
Yeah.
I think she's going to adopt more of the, Mary Jane qualities from the comics too in these movies. I think the biggest compliment I can give to No Way Home is that ending of the movie, of it feeling so Spider-Man by the end of that movie. So I hope they kind of keep going with that for that college age.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, when we talked about No Way Home, one of the kind of coolest things that it ever did was solidify this as an origin trilogy.
Yep.
For Spider-Man, which was really cool.
MCU of ways too. Yeah. It's like very MCU origin to get him to that place, which is awesome. So we are going to get a Hypno Hustler. I'm kidding.
I mean, that is happening.
It is. Will it though?
I mean,
give us a second.
We'll talk about it. Because there's Hypno Hustler related things happening in Across the Spider-Verse. But no, the big one is a live action Miles Morales movie, which I guess is the next logical step.
Yeah.
Coming off this character, kind of just taking over the zeitgeist of Spider-Man for the last probably 10 years or so.
Yeah, and I mean, the story of Miles Morales, really quick, your 30-second summary is Brian Michael Bendis was watching season 1 of the Community, and he was just like, Donald Glover was wearing that Spider-Man shirt when he got out of bed. He's like, I'm going to make a character based off that. So he created Miles Morales, your half black, half Puerto Rican Spider-Man. Then he was located in the Ultimate Universe. That Ultimate Peter Parker dies, and then he kind of becomes Spider-Man. And then 2015 Secret Wars, he gets transported over to the main universe. So now, I mean... You have Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. You had the Spider-Man. The flagship game for the PlayStation 5 was the Miles Morales Spider-Man, and then that Bendis run on Miles Morales was super famous as well too. So
yeah, I mean it's really not something we've seen in comics really
recently.
Yeah,
of like this character that the only other one that I'm like a recent character that really Miss Marvel's another big one that like really took like the true spotlight of like a new character that was made within the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's truthfully like Miles Morales, like in terms of villain, like Godspeed was somebody that was super, and I only think Godspeed was that famous because of the Flash TV show was running at the same time they made all that rebirth stuff from Flash is because of the Flash TV show.
Yeah. I mean, it's Miles. I mean, you're thinking like, who are these like kind of like adjacent characters, right? That kind of like take on this life of their own.
Exactly.
But you have Miles, Venom, probably kind of had this kind of thing where he just like showed up in comics and people were like, whoa. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say Wally West in a form or fashion just because of the animated stuff.
Yeah. And John Stewart by proxy of that same logic of like him, like I said, like I knew John Stewart and Wally West before I knew Barry Allen and Hal Jordan.
And I mean, all due respect to like Barry Allen and Hal Jordan, but neither of them are Peter Parker. So for Miles to kind kind of approach that territory, which is where I think that character is headed. I've seen think pieces where like Miles is going to replace Peter. No, he's not going to replace Peter Parker. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But do I think that this version of Spider-Man could be people's definitive Spider-Man?
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to even double down, and I'm going to go the kids.
Yeah.
Kids are watching these movies right now. Kids that haven't picked up comics, and then once these kids are going to start reading comics, like the newer age comics have a lot of Miles Morales in there too. There's definitive stories with Miles Morales, so I'm not going to be surprised if it's like a Wally West situation where like that's the Flash or that's Spider-Man to them is Miles Morales.
Yeah, I mean you talk about kind of like how kids consume characters nowadays. It's through two things, right? It's through movies and TV, and it's through video games.
I'll add a third, and that's through social media, maybe.
Yeah. And where do you see Miles Morales the most?
Yep.
TV and movies and video games.
Yep.
So like, it's super cool. It's super cool. I mean, there's really no other way to express it, and you know that paves the way for this movie for Across the Spider-Verse, which has been just a revelation.
Yep.
Since it's released. I mean, it's kind of Into the Spider-Verse had this really interesting run, right? Where like it came out, it did fairly well, it was received really well, but it had this sustained kind of chain of like people talking about it,
right.
And then it hit streaming, and then it really took off.
Yep. And a couple things to highlight. I mean, the number one thing to highlight is you go to different points in history and where things truthfully change. And for animation, this has been the newest ultimate change for anime. I mean, we had a whole bunch of trailers that came before the movie. I look at Intergalactic that Kid Cudi did on Netflix. Like, this is going to be the new wave of animation, is the style that they used in Into the Spider-Verse and in Intergalactic. Like, this is gonna be the Pixar for the 2020s and the 2030s. Is like what Miller did on that last movie and what Lord and Miller did, like that animation style too.
Yeah, so. I mean, interestingly enough, like we've seen a trailer for a Pixar movie, and not to say anything bad about Elementals, I'm sure it'll be great, but the Pixar animation kind of feels a little antiquated compared to what we got in this. I mean, what they're doing isn't just animation; it's storytelling through their animation, which Into the Spider-Verse started, but this movie doubled down on.
Yeah, and especially in that prologue is where the prologue and then one of the ending sequences in this movie just really hammers home how incredible and how emotional they can make it, how just how interactive they can make it as well. Yeah. It is a testament to the attention to detail that they have.
It's a movie that rewards you for paying attention.
Exactly.
It's a movie it's a movie that's built for second and third viewings.
Yeah, I saw this movie again the second time yesterday, and before we head into talking about the movie, the last thing I'll kind of say is, and I saw a couple other creators talk about this, the feeling that I got from that movie, you don't feel often, but when it happens, you know exactly what it is. I mean, we walked out of the theater together on the first one, and I was like, this movie is incredible. Like, this is truthfully special. Then I saw it the second time, and it's like that feeling, like that it's so few and far between. Like Top Gun Maverick, like recent ones, Top Gun, you got that feel, like that movie magic feeling. Like, that's the number one compliment I can give this movie, is like you get that feel of like absolute magic in a movie, and like why people love movies, like why the good side of why people love movies and watch movies. Like, I got it from that.
Yeah, and I mean the numbers back it up, right? It's got a $132 million domestic opening, which is really, really, really good. I think it blew the projections like out of the water.
Yeah.
It is holding mid-90s on Rotten Tomatoes, both through critics and audience members. I mean, people recognize what this is. This is a really special film. And it comes down to not just the animation style, but like I don't think it can go understated enough how good the performances are.
Yeah, there's one performance specifically from the main characters I can't wait to talk about. That's just a revelation. It's not even a revelation, because this person was always like this and always capable, but just watching it, I'm just in awe of how incredible. And then you want to talk about our favorite category, heat check performance. There is a specific heat check that we're gonna have the same one fun. But even in the subtleties of them, like, that's why, Guillermo del Toro at the Oscars talked about this year, like, animation is film still. It's not this little brother category. It still is film. Like, movies like this are what really supplant that and really make that evident.
Yeah, and I mean, the great thing about it is, like I said, there's so much packed in to this movie that it's so much more than just cameos. And, I think that was like one of the big kind of plugs, like one of the big pulls when this movie was like originally announced, was like, oh, there's going to be so many different spider people in this. But
so it's like one of those, it's like the whole, the basket or the sports saying, like, you go, offense sells tickets, but defense plays games. Their offense is that. It's just different variations on spider people. Their defense is the emotional moments in this movie and the character building moments in this movie from the prologue of this movie are inspired.
I think this movie, because of how it ends, which we'll talk about, is expertly framed because, when you think about, because obviously this is a two-parter and we've known this. Some people probably didn't.
A lot of people didn't. And the second viewing, I didn't know it again. Or people didn't know again. And like, it's such this reaction, like, people were like getting mad in the theater, and I'm like, is that not the mark of you just probably made an incredible movie that people are that upset that it just ended?
But at the same time, there is an arc happening. Not just for Miles, but that prologue piece that we're going to talk about. Like, Gwen Stacy is almost the main character of this movie.
Yep.
Like, she's the character that starts and ends this thing.
Yep.
Like, she's the bookend, which is such a unbelievable move by them.
If Miles is the heart of this movie, then she's like the soul of this movie. She truthfully carries the burden of what Spider-Man means to her on a more family level. And obviously Miles kind of adopts that later when we hit him in the movie, but it's to that line that they have, and to slightly spoil my favorite scene, when the two of them are together and they're swinging through the city, which leads up into an incredible moment, like where they talk, we're the same, like we truthfully are the same. And it's moments like that, like I said, that's the defense of the movie, which really kind of makes it win, is those moments. And there was so many of those packed into that first hour of that movie, and I was like, I felt something I was like feeling truthfully incredible about. I was just like, this is beautiful storytelling right now.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think there's anything else I can say that's not spoilery, that other than, I mean, the movie's phenomenal. It's one of the, again, they did it again. It's one of the best superhero movies of all time. It's one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time. Man, I can't say enough good things. And we haven't even talked about Oscar Isaac yet.
Yeah.
Who does a wonderful job as Spider-Man 2099 as this, antagonist.
Yeah.
Like, he truly is an antagonist of this movie, trying to, the plot of this movie feels complicated, but it's relatively simple. It's a fight against fate.
Usually those are usually simple plots, is what our hypothesis in the recent year of, like, sometimes the simpler plots are the ones that produce the better movies. It's kind of been still going strong.
And this is the classic case of character fighting fate.
Yep.
It's the determinism piece.
Yeah, predestination versus determinism. Yeah.
Yeah, and how does the main character fight against that? And, hard cut.
Yeah.
Because basically the plot of this movie is this meta commentary on Miles Morales.
And it's an incredible theme, especially for kids to get. And there's a specific line he gives in it's like the most famous line from this movie. It's an incredible line that he gives. Like, everybody's kind of telling me how my story should go. Like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Like, incredible theme, especially to have for kids.
Yeah. And like I said, it's this incredible meta commentary on Miles Morales that he shouldn't exist. He's not real. He's not the real Spider-Man. And that's what this movie is. It's, and it's so expertly crafted. It's retroactive back to Into the Spider-Verse, because that's the plot, is the spider that bit Miles was not for him. Right. is what you find out. That's the big kind of plot twist, the I am your father kind of of the plot twist.
This movie does feel very Empire.
Yeah, especially, we'll talk about the ending, but yeah, I mean, they kind of come to terms with the fact that Miles kind of ruined the universe by becoming Spider-Man.
And possibly the entire multiverse. So, yeah. I mean, just to instead of going beat for beat, we can just talk broad strokes, kind of just like our favorite points and just big
the
points.
opening.
This prologue
like I said in the beginning, this movie is framed around Gwen Stacy. It opens with her. It doesn't open with Miles, it opens with her. We're on her Earth, and it's... Talk about the animation, this Technicolor world.
Well, right,
of Gwen Stacy.
It's the watercolor, just essentially pulled from her comic run. But it's so well crafted, and like you can't help but just be entranced by kind of the way she moves through it. Like there's a lot of bits where she'll move in front of something or behind something, and then she'll switch to Spider-Gwen, and then she'll switch back to Gwen Stacy.
I loved it,
and it's just
when she's on the subway.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes character development isn't difficult. You just need to show, not tell. And I mean, it's as simple as her just being in the band, like her losing herself playing the drums in the beginning and just storming right out of there. Like, she's still a Spider-Man or a Spider-Woman at the end of the day. So she's upset. She's pissed off. She's, she wants to see Miles. It's as simple as that. She wants to see Miles, hasn't had it. And again, even to go further, she hasn't had a friend. We get the true origin of Gwen Stacy, especially with the Knight. In very, teen Spider-Man movie fashion, her story kind of ends with Peter on that prom night, essentially, or the homecoming, whatever it is. And you find out this version of Peter Parker, who's played by
Jack Quaid.
Really awesome. He's turns himself into the Lizard, and they have a fight at the school dance, and she dies. And then this is when I knew this movie was... He dies. He dies. This is when I knew this movie was something. This is when I knew this movie had something. So there is an incredible scene. So she's trying to get away, and Captain Stacy, he walks in, and he's holding the gun at her, and she makes a decision. She decides to take her mask off, unveil her identity to him, and he's in shock. And then my jaw dropped when this man continued to read her the Miranda rights. I said, this is going to be a film. We're about to see something incredible. Miguel shows up, so basically a vulture from a different dimension goes there. Miguel and Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, show up, kind of help her do this.
Because the vulture is an anomaly. That's right. Basically that's what Miguel's team is there for. They're there to hunt anomalies, and this vulture is from the animation is crazy, but this Renaissance era vulture come through.
Right. Fun stuff. A lot of fun
it's really fun.
The different animation styles, and there's a character which animation style really pops out against the other thing, which is the whole point for him. But yeah, it's really well done. Gwen goes with them, and like you understand immediately from that why this movie takes place around Gwen. Like, she is, like I said, she truthfully is like the emotional kind of core, and like we talk about Miles having this battle. She has an even bigger battle at some aspects, and this whole idea that she really has to lie to one of her only friends in the entire multiverse, not a whole entire universe, the whole multiverse. She has to lie to him. And this guy that she's really kind of falling for, like, she can't tell him the truth about anything, what's going on. Like, and she has obligation to the entire multiverse to keep it safe. So she goes with them. And it's a very incredible opening. Just one of those openings that I'll really remember.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's such a perfect, and that's why the ending of the reveal is so jarring, because, it begins with Gwen and it ends with Gwen of her, her story in the beginning is about her being alone, and the movie ends with her being surrounded by friends, which is that's the arc. Yeah, that's right. The arc of the movie is from her perspective, which is so smart. It's such a smart way to do a two-parter. Right, is to frame it around a different character. That's not to say Miles is not incredibly important, and his character is not incredibly important, because that's the other half of this coin is Miles' story. Yeah, and how an incidental conflict with the Spot leads to multiversal damnation. Right.
What's your favorite Wes Anderson movie?
Oh boy.
You should pick one with Jason Schwartzman, because he's the villain of this movie. So Wes Anderson's Jason Schwartzman's The Spot is the villain of this movie, and he's just the villain of the week, right?
You would think.
You would think. Just really hilarious opening with Miles. I love how sure Miles is of himself, but he's still not. But he's just growing. It's such a testament, and so many other superhero movies should take this. Like, he's not an idiot. Like, in the second movie, like, they're either like so far into doing this thing perfectly, or they're still just incapable of doing anything. It's one of my biggest gripes with Ant-Man, and the second Ant-Man movie is like, Scott's still kind of dumb doing everything, and then like other movies, like the main characters just by far like just, you know, god tier at this point into their powers. Like, Miles is the perfect balance of like, you know, 15-year-old Miles Morales still doing dumb kid things, but also like just the way he swings is more confident. He's more confident. He's able to stop a lot more villains at this point too. It's really well done.
Yeah, and this is why this movie is a perfect example of showing and not telling, right? Because the whole idea of this movie is that Miles is not supposed to be Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And that is actually accentuated in the escape sequence later, because, you know, you wonder how he can outmaneuver all these Spider-Men. Mm-hmm. It's because they've never seen him before. Yeah. They've never seen how he moves. They don't know his powers. They don't know what he can do. Yep. It's so smart. Yep. It's such a smart way to do it. Yeah. Like, that sequence is a commentary on the plot of the movie. Right. That, like, he's not supposed to be there, so none of these other people know how to deal with him. Yeah. Which is, except, I mean, there's one character who gets him, and that's... that's
I don't even want to say it yet. I just want to save it because he's just incredible.
But yeah, and I mean, Miles is at the point where he's you know,
it's finally he's hitting the Spider-Man thing of like life. You can't have, and that's another big theme of this movie is I can do both. Like, can you be Miles Morales and can you be Spider-Man at the same time? And can you live with what happens? And I mean, it's the line that Spider-Pig gave him in the last movie, like, you're not able to save everybody. And like, you know, it goes down to what all this, the whole reason this movie exists is because with great power comes great response. Like, can you truthfully do both of these? Can you not tell your parents and like have them wonder? Such a wonderful job. I mean, Brian Tyree Henry does as Jeff Morales in this movie. Mm-hmm. Really awesome change. And his mother as well. I just love their relationship as well. And it's every kid has gone through this, like, where there's stuff they just don't tell their parents. Yeah. And I think that's my favorite part about their relationship in this movie is like, it felt so real. Like, it just felt truthfully so gut-wrenchingly real of like this whole, nobody's Spider-Man here in this plane, but like, it's the same. Like, stuff you just don't tell your parents that you're doing or can't tell your parents or don't feel comfortable telling your parents. That's all he's going through right now is like, he's 15. He's a kid. He's still a kid, but he thinks he's an adult. That's a big part for him too. So, Miles is trying to take down the Spot. Villain of the week, the Spot. That's it. And at the same time, again, the balance between your Spider-Man life. He's thinking about college and he's thinking about moving away. And the big, you know, plot thread for his mom specifically is like, hey, you don't leave us. Like, do not leave. Like, you're Brooklyn born and raised, but don't leave me specifically. And that's something on the other side of the coin she has to deal with, of like letting somebody out into the world too.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, she mentions later about she wanted him to stay because, you know, she's afraid of how other people will receive him, which again kind of relates to the rest of the movie, you know, with the other Spider people not receiving him and how he adapts to that. Right. And when he talks to her later, like saying like, I figured it out. Right. Like, I kind of figured it out. Yeah. I mean, we find out who he's talking to isn't her, but but yeah, man, it's super cool. It's super, just like you said, it's the best stories are the ones where they're fantastical but relatable. And obviously, like you said, none of us are Spider-Man here. We don't have that kind of secret, but we all have been in this situation, same exact situation before. And
even with Gwen and her dad too. It's you know, same different universe, same thing. It's simple as that too.
And the thing that you realize when you get older is, yeah, you've lived Miles's experience, but you sympathize with the parents. Yeah. Especially Jefferson, where like
he's
concerned about Miles and he's questioning himself.
It's very dad-like of him, and the same thing. And you know what? And now thinking about it this way, I'm really glad this movie did start with, Captain Stacy, because it's a different relationship that he has. Like, obviously, he believes that Spider-Woman is absolute criminal, where Jeff is kind of working with him. But the same thing that they have, and why it's relatable for, like, the parents that are taking the kids to see this movie is, like, parenting is hard. Like, I don't care if it's Spider-Man or if it's just the kid that I just thought was going to this school. Like, parenting is tough. It's a tough thing to do. And it's even tougher to try to relate to these people that for so long are you, but at some point kind of get severed from being an extension of you and trying to turn into their own person.
Yeah, it's really great. And, like, that struggle that Jefferson has, like, I can't crack it. Like, I can't get through to Miles. Like, am I doing something wrong? Like, is it me?
Yep.
Like, are we doing a bad job? Or, like, is he just growing up?
Right.
Like, it's such a classic kind of piece of young adult fiction.
Right.
That they just inserted into this superhero movie.
Right.
And that's what makes it so great.
Yeah. And I like how this movie, it starts with, a little bit of multiverse stuff, but, like, the big heavy piece is all of that. All those emotional bits, all those story bits, all those character building bits are the ones that really kind of hold the house together. And I think if you reverse it, you get, like, the first 2 acts of No Way Home. You know what I mean? But if you do it this way, it feels so much more organic.
Yeah. And nothing's more organic than when Gwen comes to see Miles again. And you're just...
How human of her.
Yeah.
How normal of her to try to do that, too.
Yeah, it feels right.
It does feel right, too.
And it leads to that sequence that you're talking about, where they're swinging through the city, and it ends up in just this insane sequence of shots where they get above the city, and she does like a...
I don't even want to talk about it yet. I just want to save it for a little bit.
We'll circle back to it, because it's truly... remarkable.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those scenes that, like, take your breath away when it unfolds.
Yeah.
And I mean, going back, eventually the Spot reappears.
Right. So you find out a couple things about the Spot. So
he sees himself as Spider-Man's nemesis.
And
you're like, get lost.
Get lost, Jason Schwartzman. Why don't you go do another Wes Anderson movie, boss? But you find it's retroactive storytelling, and it's perfect. Like, how we talk about, like, these heartfelt and emotional bits? These movies are also actually hilarious, too.
Oh, they're funny, yeah.
So you find out, if you could believe it or not, that the Spot was one of the scientists at Alchemax.
This is just Fast X again.
It is just Fast X again. Just doing retroactive villains that were there but weren't there that whole time. How many multiverse movies did you think were make or break on a bagel?
This is just this one. There's just this one.
There's 2 of them.
What's the other one?
It's Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, that's right.
Because Jojo Tupaki puts all of her emotions on a bagel. And that bagel's gonna destroy the multiverse.
Just like this.
Just like this.
Just like this movie. Yeah.
It's like that whole thing. It's just like, if I had 2 dimes for this, or I had a dime for this, I'd have 2 dimes. That's just one more dime than I thought I'd have.
Yeah, so he got hit in the head with a bagel, and the collider went off, and it became the Spot.
Those 2 things are unrelated, but the comic origin of the Spot is basically he was trying to, harness the way that Cloak uses his powers from Cloak and Dagger from Marvel Comics. Like, how does he use this whole thing?
Yeah.
Something happens, yada, 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 science experiment gone wrong, yada, yada, yada. He has these, interdimensional holes all over himself.
Yeah.
I'm ready to show the holes to the world my holes. Hey, man. he said, hey, man, can you stop talking about your holes? It's making everybody uncomfortable. As you were, gentlemen.
Yeah, so he shows back up. And then that's why Gwen's there. Mm-hmm. She doesn't tell Miles that.
Yep.
But that's why she's there. Mm-hmm. And she's also there to make sure Miles doesn't get involved.
Right.
But she also doesn't tell him.
Yeah. Is that she's after the Spot.
Yeah.
She's trying to take him down because, again, to them still, he's just the villain of the week, but he's still... he's not an anomaly, but they just were worried about him.
Because he can travel the multiverse.
Right. Exactly.
At will.
At will, yeah. So I love his progression. So, once we hit, everything happens. Miles and his dad, Spider-Man and his dad have a nice little interaction too, where he's talking about, hey, you gonna let the kid spread his wings? What do you think you're gonna do? What do you think you're gonna do? And then you go back to the spot, and then he's just like, all right, I'm gonna go through this last hole right here. I'm gonna see if I can, see what these are about. Hypothesis: if I stick my head through this hole, what's gonna happen? And he shows up in a different universe. He's like, this makes sense.
He shows up in the Venomverse.
Okay, so he shows up in like a 1930s cartoon.
Yep.
And then he shows up in whatever that shop owner's name was from Venom.
Mrs. Chang.
And I was like, excuse me? So live action stuff, and I was like, okay.
It's great.
This is something.
It's very Jessica Rabbit, like the live action mixed with the animation. He goes to Legoland.
Okay, so yeah, that's where the plot really kicks off. So goes to Legoland, destroys it. They cut back to that, and then like it's J.K. Simmons is still, and I love it. It's like he's a Nexus being, so it's always going to be J.K. Simmons in whatever universe.
Yep.
So they recycle just the lines from other movies too. So that Peter Parker goes into the bathroom, Lego rips off his clothes to have the Spider-Man clothes, and then he does the sound effect. He's like beep boop beep, and he goes on the watch, and it's just like Miguel's just like, he's like, I think I found the spot, and Miguel's just like, thank you, Spider-Man, you're one of our best.
You're one of our best.
Is that the best line in the movie?
It's one of them.
Oh man, it's incredible.
It's really great.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and then the Spot ends up, going through a portal.
Yeah, and he's just
Gwen
like,
chases him.
Well, he's just like, I gotta get more powerful. That's the thing. So Gwen's like, all right, bye, Miles. Jessica Drew kind of takes Gwen under her belt and kind of is mentoring her for a little bit.
Yeah.
And Jessica Drew is basically like, hey, I'm giving you an hour to go to Mumbattan with Spider-Man India, and you guys better figure this out, or we're coming. We're all gonna go there, because you don't want Miguel to find out.
Yeah.
So Miles is just like, you know what, I'm going to, because
he's a hero.
Yeah, he's a hero. Oh man, that when he looks back at Brooklyn, and he's like, you know what, I gotta go. So he leaves. He goes into the multiverse. They go to Mumbattan. With Pav, man.
First of all, if you guys are not familiar with Spider-Man India, this redesign is immaculate.
Yeah. He's got his hair flowing out of the suit.
Because the original Spider-Man India design is basically
just Spider-Man with
baggy pants.
Yeah.
With like the genie pants.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty awful.
Yeah.
Right. But this redesign,
it's amazing.
Oh my god.
It's spectacular. It's ultimate.
It's amazing.
Let's see how many Spider-Man superlatives we can get now.
It's superior to the other Spider-Man India design. And man, this Spider-Man is amazing. He's so good.
Yeah,
he's so happy.
He's happy.
He loves life.
He loves life. He hasn't had any. He has had so important. He has had the Uncle Ben tragedy that's happened to him, or his uncle. This version of his uncle has died. But yeah, he's had a pretty good life. He's got a nice girlfriend. His girlfriend her father is the
police chief.
He's the Inspector Singh. But he's doing good. He wakes up. He doesn't like to work out because he doesn't want to get too buff. He does great in school. He's like everything that like Tobey's Spider-Man wasn't. And I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. So, and then the Spot shows back up.
Mm-hmm. And the Spot's just getting more powerful and more powerful.
He's looking for another super collider.
Right. So they go to try to track him down. They use Lila, the same AI from the end of the last movie. And she's just like, oh, he's here. Wait, he's here. He's just like, this guy's fast. And he's just like, he can make his own portals and go wherever he wants. And they're like, that's probably a big problem. Mm-hmm. He's just like, he's going to only Earths with super colliders in them, with Alchemaxes in them. So he goes to Mumbattan in this universe, and he uses the super collider, turns it on, and that's going to make him more powerful every time he turns one on.
But before that,
yeah, so we finally so we keep talking about this character. So Gwen and Miles have this incredible scene we talked about. They're the two scenes built together. She keeps talking about Hobie that he needs to meet. You got to meet Hobie. He's the best. She stays over. He's like, Stay over? Did you like sleep over or? So yeah, they're down and out. The Spot is like just becoming more and more powerful too. And then lo and behold, who shows up? It's Spider-Punk himself, Daniel Kaluuya. Hobie Brown, which, spoiler alert, the heat check performance of this movie is Hobie Brown.
Yeah.
And you would think it's only because of the jokes.
Also in the comics, Hobie Brown, the original name of the Prowler.
Oh yeah, yep.
Which we'll get into.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so he shows up. He's this force of nature.
Well, like, they all joke about it, that, like, he's just better than everybody. Like, he's just super cool. So basically, comic Spider-Punk was, like, this homeless teenager that got affected by, like, Wilson Fisk dunking toxic waste. He's on the villains wiki for doing that too. So
it's pollution
for pollution. So, but we wouldn't get Hobie Brown without that pollution. So thanks, Wilson. So yeah, him and Pav are like joking around in there. But he's everything like like he's anti-establishment, anti-team, anti-everything,
anti-labels,
and he doesn't like labels. He's not a role model. He was a runway model. He's the best.
He hates consistency.
He hates consistency. He hates comedy. I'm just joking. That's the best line out of the movie, actually.
And his animation is all out of whack.
Makes so much sense. It's like the 60s newspaper clipping wave. It's insane.
Yeah, he's like a collage.
Right, but he keeps changing. He's not they'll
because he hates consistency.
He hates consistency.
So he's always animating because the frame rate is always different on different parts of his body at different times. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's a crazy technique.
Yeah. Like, how do you do that?
It's genius. It's brilliant. And so Hobie establishes himself as the anti-establishment character.
Yo, Gwen, those are my Chucks. and Miles is like, what do you mean by that?
And they basically fail to stop the Spot.
Yeah. So the Spot goes supernova, essentially, and just destroys that Alchemex, which is, like, hovered above the city. So, like, it gets split in half, and it's just going right into one of the bridges in there.
Yeah.
And it's, like, Miles' immediate hero brain flip, like, and Miles kind of gets them all going, like, all right, you're gonna do this, let's get this done. And, like, the four of them together are just incredible. Like, Miles and Pav drop down, and Gwen and Hobie are kind of holding up Alchemex, and, like, they're trying to clear everybody out of all the structures and stuff. It's awesome. It's great.
And then Pav has his moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
He has to save his girlfriend. And then he's got to save Inspector Singh.
Yeah.
But he can't do both.
Yeah, but he even says that I can do both. So, and Miles sees it. Meanwhile, Miles is trying to go save Inspector Singh. He's like, I got you. And Gwen's holding him, and she's just like, no. And, like, first viewing, you're like, oh, she just doesn't want him to try to get in any sort of danger. So we'll leave it at that for now. But he swoops down, saves Inspector Singh. That line where he's just like, she's just like, I've never seen him this emotional. And he's just shaking his hand, I think is always great. But yeah, they kind of save the day. But then the earth is, like, unraveling from under them, and they're like, what the heck is going on? And then a portal opens, a giant spider ship drops down, and, like, different versions of Spider-Man. I think one of them was, like, Future Foundation Spider-Man runs out, and they just put these machines down to try to stitch up the universe, but they don't know if they're going to be able to as well.
And they're like, what the hell? Well, Miles is like, what the hell?
Yeah,
and they're like, oh no, bro.
Oh no.
Everyone else knows.
Right.
They take him to Miguel's hideout, where all the cameos are here.
Right, yeah, so they go in there, it's like the bomb bay doors open up, and it's like Spider Heaven in there.
Spider-Man overload.
Yeah, every type of Spider-Man in there. We get PS4, we get 2018 PS4 Spider-Man in there. We get so much. We get Spider-Monkey in there. We get Peter Parked car. Oh man, we get Ben Reilly, voiced by
Andy Samberg.
Andy Samberg's Ben Reilly. Hilarious. We get Captain Britain, Spider-Man's in there.
Bombastic Bagman is there.
Bombastic Bagman.
Everyone's there.
Yeah, everybody. You can think of a Spider-Man, they're probably in there. It's nuts. Superior Spider-Man's in there. It's insane.
They take him by, like, the Hall of Villains.
Right, but he's glitching out this whole time, so they give him a day pass.
Yeah.
Which is essentially, I finally got my watch. He's like, that's just a day pass, boss. Relax. Chill out.
They take him through this Hall of Villains.
Yeah, so the famous Hall of Villains. So we get some villains. We get, who do we get? We get
Mysterio.
We get Mysterios. We get Doc Ock.
Lady Mysterio.
Lady Mysterios. We get actual rhinos. And then there's prowlers in here, and it's like one prowler. And then live action Donald Glover's just sitting in there in a prowler suit, and I said, "Excuse me."
I love this story in this universe because nobody acknowledges what's going on. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't recognize him as, like, a real guy. Right. They recognize him as just another prowler. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yep. Hobie's like, I caught him, and then Donald Glover's like, I slipped. So
good.
Is that the MCU prowler?
It's a version of the MCU prowler, I would assume. Because that's... Okay, one of the things people have issue with, and I'm fast-forwarding through this, because what happens is he confronts Spider-Man 2099 confronts Miles, and he's like, all these things are supposed to happen. People are supposed to die. You're supposed look at the timeline of all the captains that have died. Yeah. They're all supposed to die. Like, this happens to everybody. And so, and then it's basically Miles versus the world, right? And people are like, well, Peter Parker, there's got to be one in there that wouldn't go along with it. It's a multiverse, man. There's infinite number of versions of infinite number of characters. Right. And Miguel O'Hara found the versions that all subscribe to his plan, basically. Except for two. Except for Miles and except for Hobie.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so he confronts Spider-Man 2099. And
the score for this movie, the soundtrack for this movie is ridiculously good. So thank you so much. You caught that Metro Boomin cameo in there. There's no escape. Sorry, guys. There was a way to get out.
There was a way to. There was somewhere to run.
there was somewhere to run. But yeah, I love that 2099 synth tone futuristic score that they put on. I just feel like imagine. I mean, there was a scene where he's standing in the New York rain, like brooding up there while I was playing. Like, man, Oscar Isaac has one of the best voices in Hollywood, and it fits. Like, it's like there's like adult angst built into it, and like just
this quiet menace,
and like just this idea like that I'm better than everybody, but I know best of everybody too,
and I'm the only one strong enough to do this job.
Which I actually do appreciate, and this is a commentary on the Spider-Man 2099 himself of like the entire character, but like he is from the future, like he there is a little validity to that. It's like he has seen the world, like he how many different variations of like villains he's been through and like big battles and like universe ending and multiverse ending events. Like he's seen a lot, so it makes sense that the 2099 Spider-Man is the one that's in charge of this.
And in this particular instance, he's living what he's trying to prevent.
Yeah, so what you find out is very tragic that the one universe's Miguel O'Hara was killed, and this Miguel O'Hara took his place without anybody knowing, but
because he wanted a daughter,
right? But that created what they call it? A disruption in a canon event.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the canon events in a second. So all right, he said, Lila, do the thing. She's like, what thing? Quippy AIs, everybody. We should rank the AIs at the end of this. Or we're going to have to wait till Blue Beetle comes out, but then we can rank all the AIs. But he says, do the thing, the explain thing, and then he drops something on the ground. You're the branching timeline from the MCU now, aren't you?
Yeah.
So that pops up, and I was like, they're going to do something.
Yeah.
Marvel they have, and I'm talking the Marvel umbrella has such an opportunity to just blow the roof off of Secret Wars and just do everything. Yeah. Do the dumbest stuff you can think of.
And he shows Miles, like, look.
Well, he shows him the timeline, and then he shows him the spider, like the spider. He's like, "This is all of us." What did he? Well, the Miles is like, "This is the Spider-Verse," and he's like, "That's the dumbest name I've ever heard." And then what did he call it? The arachnogrid of some crap. And he's like, that name also is kind of dumb. I'll give you that. But he's like, yeah, and then pretty cool. You start seeing comic iterations, live action iterations. You start seeing animated video game iterations that just keeps panning over, and it's just like, this is what is supposed to happen. We have so the big MacGuffin of this movie are canon events. So canon events are events for heroes that, like, for just people that need to happen. And like that's just how the universe has to flow. Like these events need to make sure they happen. So one of the events is ASN 90 event is about to occur. So ASN 90, Amazing Spider-Man 90, is where Captain Stacy dies saving a little kid. So they show the Amazing Spider-Man 90 panels, and then they show, lo and behold, Amazing Spider-Man 1 with Andrew Garfield. They show him with Dennis Leary over his body, and he's just like, so the Ben Parker, that needs to happen. And Miles learns that. He's like, oh crap, my dad's about to be named captain in a couple of days. That's the sequence from before.
And then he also has that realization about Gwen, where he's like, isn't your dad a police captain? Yeah. And she's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like, she's just like, it's so, it's again so smart to start with the Gwen Stacy prologue, because what that also does is like she's so at odds with her father at that point, where she probably was like, he hates me anyway, like what does it matter if this is the grand scheme of things too. But she sees through Miles, through his passion, that can't be, and like her escaping probably influenced like that whole conversation she had with her father.
And Miles is just like, no,
yeah, man,
we will not have it.
Yeah. Miles is just like, you're telling me to my face I just have to watch my, well, he in the whole Mumbattan sequence, the second act sequence, he touches the spot and like they have like this like mind trip sequence. And that's why I said the score in this movie is incredible.
This horror-esque
where like
sequence.
the spot becomes like this all omnipotent being that goes back to Brooklyn and is just going to. He says like, I'm going to prove to you that I'm your main, like that I'm the main one. I'm your main villain. I'm your nemesis basically. So in that sequence he sees his father saving a little kid from rubble, and then his father's going to die. And Miguel tells him 2 days. Your father's going to die in 2 days. And I was like, nope. Absolutely not. And you know, we see Peter B. Parker a little bit earlier, who as a kid, Mayday Parker, you're Mayday Parker from Marvel Comics. So yeah, he's just like, you're telling me like, you know, you had to go through, like, if you could save Ben, you wouldn't do it. And then he's just like, if it weren't for Ben Parker, most of us wouldn't be here. Maybe you wouldn't be here, but if I shouldn't be here anyway, then I'm gonna save my father. And Miguel's like, nope. Traps him immediately. And Hobie, a little bit before, in the other room with the SWAT, said, make sure you put your palms out when you're doing your electro.
Because Hobie's the one that understands Miles' deal.
Anti-establishment, anti-team. He's just like, like anarchy's the way. So Hobie's just like, I love that line where Jessica Drew's like, Hobie, you're not helping. He's like, good, I'm not helping. Like, he's the only one that truthfully gets it. So Hobie all the spider people are like getting ready to fight him. They're all like, Miles, you need to calm down.
And Miles also comes to that realization that Gwen wasn't trying to help him.
Save him. Gwen was trying to like
stop him from saving the captain.
Right. And Miles puts his hands on the.
So he's out. He's out on everybody.
Right.
Like he's over it.
Yep. And one earlier, he's just like, they called him kid, and he's just like, don't call me that. And then Miguel goes, kid, you don't understand, like this. And he's just like, I told you, stop calling me kid. And he blows up like the little kind of, you know, encapsulation he was in. And it's on.
All hell breaks loose.
It's Spider-Geddon.
Spider-Geddon. Hobie pieces out.
Yeah, Hobie's like, hey, by the way, I quit. I'm out. So yeah, it's the big chase sequence from all the trailers too.
Yep. And then it's mesmerizing. It's a mesmerizing sequence.
It's awesome. There's character work in this chase sequence too.
And then Miguel, at his wit's end, confronts Miles, and he's like, you were never supposed to be Spider-Man.
Well, yeah, he learns the truth. He's just like, and Miles is just like, what are you talking about? He's like, the spider that bit you didn't come from Earth 1610. It came from Earth 42. And now Earth 42 doesn't have a Spider-Man, and your universe already had a Spider-Man, and that Spider-Man died because he was saving you. You're the anomaly in this whole situation.
Yeah.
Much like Eddie Thawne.
And then, even in the face of that, Miles is like, goes that line, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah, he's just like, well, and this is why I say, like, there's such a great balance between, like, Miles being, like, you know, the 15-year-old kid, but also he's been doing this for a year and a half, so he's he's got great direction from all his mentors. Like, he was holding his own against Miguel, like, and you see how powerful Miguel O'Hara's spider, like, from a tech perspective and from a mutation perspective, how powerful he is too. But Miles also has abilities that none of them else have, and you're making this incredible point. And the big theme of the movie is like, if he shouldn't exist, then he has variables to himself that are unforeseen.
The ultimate weapon.
What was that?
The ultimate weapon.
The ultimate
Spider-Man.
He's the ultimate Spider-Man.
He's the ultimate Spider-Man. And he breaks out. He goes to the send back machine.
They did that nice homage to the
Leap of Faith.
To probably one of the most incredible comic book sequences of all time.
Yeah.
That leap of faith scene. Score swells, and he's just like, nah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
I'm gonna save my dad.
Yep.
And he breaks out. He goes back to the go back machine.
Mm-hmm.
Has the thing imprint his genetics.
Yep.
Send him back to his Earth.
Mm-hmm. Sure it does.
And then Miguel sends
Gwen back, and he's just like,
You're out.
He's just like, you're
off the team,
we
right?
wouldn't have been in this mess if you would have just done your job too, and you didn't tell him. So, well, also in that sequence before, too, Miles learns that Peter and Gwen knew this whole time that he was an anomaly and he should have never been Spider-Man in the first place. Man, that part where they're chasing him and obviously Gwen and Peter are more like, hey, just stop, let's talk this through. I love that part where Gwen catches him and he just, and like, as he's falling, he breaks the web immediately. He's just like, yep, I'm done. Like, I'm done with you now.
No trust
To be had. So Miles lands on his Earth.
Mm-hmm. And tells his mom that he's Spider-Man.
It's a great sequence. I mean, paying it back homage to just one of the best sequences in that whole part from like the party sequence and then like swinging through the city. My favorite, like when you ask me what my favorite line, it's the entire dialogue between him and his mom in that sequence is just
and while
incredible.
He's telling his mom, Gwen is tailing him.
Yeah.
And she's like at his place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before that, she does confront her father.
Right.
And they make up.
Yep.
It's a really beautiful scene.
They reconcile, but what's the most important thing that happens there?
He quit
the
police force.
So he's no longer Captain Stacy.
And I love, again,
it's a 90 event disrupted.
Going back to the colors of Gwen's world when they meet and they hug and it goes from his side is red, her side is blue, and they meet in the middle and it turns purple.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite. I'm going to just say it now. That's my favorite shot in the movie is when her and her father hug and the colors mix.
Man.
It's so good.
It's
world
so freaking good. They should be proud of themselves and then some for what they're.
And then she goes back to Miles's world to tail Miles back to his apartment.
Yep.
And then Miles tells his mom and she's like, "What's a Spider-Man?"
Yeah. Well, I mean,
is that one of like your Comic Con?
Well,
thing?
Even that whole monologue he gives, like he tells her like, "Hey, all those things you said to me, like you were right, Mom. Like they did come after me. Like all these things happened, but I held my own, and I found out how powerful that I was." And she's just like, "That's great." And man, and then the second watch, obviously things. So when he says the little line about his dad, and then she says something in Spanish immediately after he says, like she's just like confused, like a little angry, like he would even say that, and I'm like, what's going on, man? That first time. And then she had green eyes when Miles was talking to her. And I thought it was just the first time I was watching, I just thought it was, it's animated. You can do whatever you want. And then the doorbell rings and his spider sense just flares off. And lo and behold, who walks through the door? But Uncle Aaron walks through the door and he's just like, what is happening? And then
it cuts back to Gwen.
And Gwen walks in his room and then she just like, he's in the wrong universe. And it cuts back to him. He's like, I'm in the wrong universe. Earth 42, the universe that has no Spider-Man in it. Because
sucks.
It's
Gotham City.
It is Gotham City. So Uncle Aaron's like, come on, Miles, let's go. They leave, and he's just like, the security patrols won't be here for X amount of time. And Miles is like, I know exactly what you're talking about. So they go up to the roof, and then he gets immediately knocked out by somebody. And then he goes back into like a little hideout spot. And then he's getting interrogated. He's not even interrogating him. He's just letting Miles spit on the punching bag, nice little callback to the first movie with Peter.
Yep.
And then he puts on the Prowler gauntlet.
Yep.
And he's just like, you don't need to be a villain. He's like, you're the Prowler, but you don't need to be the villain. He's just like, I'm not the Prowler. And then he throws the glove to somebody else who's perched in the corner. They drop down and then they unveil the mask. And lo and behold, Miles Morales of this universe is the Prowler. Holy crap!
With the reverse Prowler theme,
yeah,
from the first movie.
Yep.
Oh man!
Wow.
And then
and also on Gwen's Earth, her father's like, there's some guy who's a real piece of work that came to see me, but he had told me to give you this. And the sequence when they went to go see Miguel, Hobie was just grabbing a whole bunch of stuff. You found out that he made one of the watches himself, and he made it for Gwen just in case she needed to, he needed a time or to universe hop.
She gets the band back together.
Right. She got her new friend Spider Bite, especially the Ready Player One Spider-Man.
Yeah.
She gets Hobie, Pav, and herself, and then she gets some old friends. She gets Penny Parker, she gets Spider-Pig, and she gets Spider-Man Noir. So
And Peter B. Parker.
And Peter B. Parker's obviously there too. They also have a really small but really great sequence when he's talking about like, hey, am I gonna be any good at this too? Like,
With MJ, yeah.
With MJ. And just like a little, I don't need a lot of that from this isn't Peter's story. I don't need a lot of that, but it's just a small little thing I think is really great in there.
And then she's like, yeah, I have my new band.
Mm-hmm. My new band's here. And that's the whole thing for her that whole time. She was trying to find, like, she needed a crew. She needed a band to be a part of.
She had it the whole time.
And
then the movie ends.
Yeah, it's cliffhanger. Miles, or the Earth 42, the Prowler Miles is just like, is your dad alive? And he's just like, yeah, but he's gonna die in 2 days. He's like, you need to let me go. He's like, your dad's gonna die in 2 days. My dad's already dead. And he's just like, you need to let me go. He's like, why would I do that? And then the movie just ends, and the crowd was like, what the heck?
They were furious.
Oh, that was one of the more memorable, like, movie ends, and people were like, what? Like, even Infinity War, everybody's like, okay.
Well, Infinity War, everyone was just sad.
Well, yeah, that was just core depression.
That was stunned silence.
Yeah, that was tough.
In Infinity War.
Yeah, I had never, like, walked out of a movie that packed so quiet. It was quiet.
It was dead silent.
Like,
it's still one of the craziest things ever. Like, everyone felt like they were leaving a funeral.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was something. But yeah, this movie ends on a very Empire note. So, there's a small bit of hope, but obviously Miles is in a horrible situation now. And then on top of that, you see the Spot go back. He's starting to form in Brooklyn. And you're like, this is it. This is about to be it. His father's, and it happens on the day where his father becomes named captain. So, and that is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
It's so good.
The prelude to Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Wow. It's so good.
What a picture.
It's so good. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. It's transcendent. It's all of those things. What they were able to do technically, mixing the technical stuff with the storytelling stuff, there's nothing else I can say. It's amazing. Like it truly is.
It's about that time for us.
Yeah.
Give the awards out.
Give the awards out, you cowards.
All right, so I still have my Fast and Furious notes, and it's funny that I have Best Car because I actually can give a Best Car award in that movie, and it's Peter Park's car.
Peter Park car.
All right, so we'll do Spider-Man related categories first. Favorite Spider-Man?
Man, I love what they did with the Ben Reilly character. I know people are upset about it.
Some people were mad, but I'm like, you don't care.
I don't care, man. They made him radical 90s.
It's edgelord 90s.
Edgelord 90s. More explaining his thoughts needlessly.
Yeah, like
that sequence of him at the end.
There's a disturbance in the alley.
I'm swinging into the alley.
I've arrived in the alley.
I'm looking at the wall.
I'm looking at the wall. Everything seems okay. Whoa.
It's so good.
What's my favorite Spider-Man? I really liked Spider-Man India. I really thought he was great. He was voiced by the actor from Deadpool, which is awesome. I'm probably gonna say, man, it's so tough.
I mean, there's safe answers.
They're safe, and this could be one of those simple ones where it's Miles is Incredible Spider-Man.
Gwen.
I'm probably gonna say, I'll probably say Miguel was probably my favorite Spider-Man because I kind of feel all the stuff that he was, I feel it. Like it's tough, and I mean Oscar Isaac himself kind of, bringing it to life as well. Like it made me want a live action 2099 Spider-Man, but then with Oscar Isaac, and I can very much see Oscar Isaac playing this, this older, grizzled version of Spider-Man from the future would be awesome. What is your favorite? I want to save the cameo, but what's another spider related category? Favorite universe?
I like the Lego universe.
It just was hilarious.
Also, animated, for those of you who don't know, there's this 14-year-old kid who went viral some time ago for making an animated Lego thing. And he worked on that sequence.
Yeah. What did he... I think he recut the trailer... he recut the trailer for the first one or something. Or the second one, I'm pretty sure he recut the trailer.
So they brought him in to do the animation for the Lego sequence.
It was awesome.
I loved it.
Thank you, Peter. You're one of our best.
I really like the Lego universe.
Gwen's universe is just it's
realistically
hard not to pick that.
It's
one.
beautiful.
It's alive. That's the best thing I can say about it. It's alive. It's active, and it's encompassing of her emotion, which is awesome.
Yep.
I got to give you one more spider related one. This is tough. What's your favorite canon event? Or least favorite? Because they're all sad? Or they don't necessarily need to be sad.
Aren't they all sad?
Kinda.
Favorite canon event for these spider people? Man, I have an attachment to the Amazing Spider-Man. It's Andrew Garfield and Dennis Leary.
Yeah.
Man, like, you're not so bad.
You're not so bad, man. Yeah. You're pretty fine. You're pretty okay.
You have great hair.
You do have great hair. Look at you. I'm dying.
Get all those cranes in the same order.
Get the cranes in order, because I saved that one guy and his kid from the lizard. You're the lizard. Oh, no, it's Reese Fonz. You're the lizard. No.
They should have had Reese Fonz in this.
Oh, man. I would have paid money for that. I would have paid more money. I'm going to probably say canon events. It might just be Miguel's, because it's definitely one of the more sad ones, because he built the very thing upon the fact that he messed up, essentially. But how human of him to mess up on just something, just on a want. It's simple. Same thing that Gwen did. Same thing that he did. He just wanted something, and he just wanted to feel some love, and that's it. So he probably has the saddest canon event that needed to take place.
Yeah.
Man. These Fast and Furious categories are hilarious. The best cinema moment, but it makes sense for this one. It was just ironic for the Fast and Furious one.
The best cinema moment, I think it's the I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah. It is great. It is incredible. I'm going to pick the sequence because I want to save the other one. So I'm going to pick the sequence with him and his mom after the party. It's just like great dialogue, built in mother-son relationship. And, just kind of trying to relate to the teen that you're, getting farther and farther away from. I'm still in awe of like that whole part of that movie, without doing much Spider-Maning in there. Mm-hmm. Best character that doesn't need to be in this movie. This actually applies here. This is great.
The Renaissance Vulture?
Yeah, Renaissance Vulture is great. It's Ben Reilly for me. Because you could swap him out, even if he was Superior Spider-Man, whatever it is. But it's just the fact that they just took the 90s pages and just put it on the thing.
Even they gave him the 90s
animation,
over animated muscle design, all that, the hard lines.
I was just thinking about that was a specifically dark thing that I had to think about. Is he okay? Best actor to join the franchise, so we'll say best voice actor to join the franchise, and sometimes these are simple because it is. Oh no, this is more complicated than I thought it was.
I'm gonna say Daniel Kaluuya.
Okay, if you say Daniel Kaluuya, because I'm already on the 2099 trade, I'll say Oscar Isaac.
Also, Jason Schwartzman also.
Yeah, Jason Schwartzman was awesome. He was really good. Best car bit, which is just Peter Park's car.
Peter Park's car. The train bit kind of counts.
Mm-hmm. So we had Best Planet, and I'm going into different movies, but Best Planet would just be our Best Earth, which we picked already.
Yeah.
And this is all from Fallen Order. So now we're into our normal stuff. Saddest moment in this movie.
I honestly think the saddest moment is Captain Stacy reading Gwen the Miranda rights.
Man,
it's heartbreaking.
Man, when we saw that, I actually, I got a little nervous about our crowd that we had when we got to go see the movie in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because there was 20 people in the theater, and we were in the big theater, so there's 20 people, and there was 10, 20. The movie started, it was 10, 25. I was okay. And then 35 people walked in, and I was and they were all younger kid, and I was uh-oh, this isn't gonna be good. They were joking around and stuff, but everybody was into the movie, that's another tell if you made a pretty good movie is, the crowd reception and how they're into it. There were people really into the movie, and when he read her the Miranda, everybody's oh shoot, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that I'm gonna agree with, is definitely the saddest moment in
because
that movie.
It's you don't expect it.
Yeah, you just think he's gonna be like Gwen,
or let her go,
or just be too stunned to talk. He doubled down. doubled down on what he believed in.
He was going to shoot her?
He was going to shoot her.
He pulled his gun on her?
Yep.
It's crazy.
He raised his gun back up after she took the mask off too. So, best relationship in this movie?
I think the Gwen Miles relationship went in a lot of different places in this movie, and a lot of believable places.
Sure.
To the point where it's going to bleed so well into the next one.
Yeah, because they're going to fall in love in the next one.
Yeah. When eventually she rescues him, it's going to be like this euphoric kind of portals moment, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gwen and Miles.
I'm going to pick Rio and Miles. So it's him and his mom. It's just throughout the movie, each act of the movie is direct influence from that first, from the scene inside when they were with the counselor in there. It's just, it's incredible. And it really swells in the moment on the rooftop where they're kind of talking. She's talking about, man, when that score piece starts playing and she's just like, let me fix you real quick. And I'm like, man, uh-oh, I'm feeling something. Yeah. Wait a minute. So yeah, I think that's the best relationship in that movie, and then again, direct correlation to everything at the end. Nice play on what happened with Gwen and her father and she told him, don't tell them who you are, and then he still does. The most underrated character in this movie. So there's a difference between the heat check and the most underrated character.
Funny enough, I think Peter B. Parker is the most underrated character in this movie.
That is exactly mine too.
He was such a mainstay of the first movie, but kind of takes this backseat role in this one. But every time he's on screen, it feels important. Yeah. In this one, so yeah, I think Peter B. Parker gets a lot of like surprisly touching moments.
Yeah,
too.
He does.
Like when he's talking to Miles in that little alcove that he kind of has Miles in, and he's like, "Can we just talk?" And then like his watch goes off and Miles is immediately like alerted, like you trapped me here, and Peter's like, I didn't know it was work. Like I didn't know they were tracking me.
Right, and the biggest part of that is he says, I would have never had Mayday if it weren't for you, because I met you and I realized this kid that I would have has the potential to grow up with like you,
to be someone like you,
and that excites me. So yeah. Peter B. Parker, and again, this isn't his story. We've already seen Peter Parker's story since the 1960s. We've had his story. Yeah. This is not the, Peter Parker Spider-Man movie with Miles Morales baked into it. This is a Miles Morales movie. So a lot of the complaint that I hear that, Peter B. Parker's wasted, I don't think it's accurate, because this isn't his movie. He's not the main character of this movie. And he already had all the character work he needed. His next progression was to be a father. So I think he is the most underrated character. And again, that sequence where he goes back to his Earth, and this whole parent-child relationship theme that they had running through this movie, I think really helps with that as well. Most heroic moment in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, the train, Miles on the train.
That wasn't mine, but
that's mine.
It's the ascension of Hobie Brown is the most heroic moment, and like him
buying in,
and I don't know if you got this, he was immediately, taken by Miles. Like he immediately was like, Miles is like, he's good. Like I like this guy right here. And like he kind of saw Miles' potential, Miles before anybody else could that hadn't known him from the first movie.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, like it makes sense that Hobie would take to him, knowing what Miles really is, knowing he's this anomaly. Like, of course, Hobie's going to be attracted to that because Miles is the most anti-establishment there is. Like he's not supposed to exist. Right. Like what's more hardcore than that? Exactly. Like to Hobie, like that's what's so cool about their relationship.
Right. Yeah. He is a hero, Hobie, through and through. Like he doesn't have to think twice about saving people too, but he understands how other people should save themselves too. The kid took a crap on the establishment. That's hardcore.
You are an anarchist. I salute you.
Kid's an anarchist. Best bit?
I love the Ben Reilly talking to himself.
It is funny. It is fun.
I don't think anything got me to laugh harder than that.
It's good.
Also because it happens at like this such intense part of the movie. It is an intense
part of the movie.
This is disturbance in the alley. I'm swinging to the alley. I'm looking at the wall.
What is that?
Yes, Dad. He says to Miguel.
Miguel's like, come on, guys. He said, yes, Dad. My favorite bit was from the beginning where Miles, and I love the way in the first one how like the issues were like everybody's origin, but this time the issue is like a progression of the story, so it's like an arc for this time.
Yeah.
My favorite one was like in the beginning with Miles where he's talking about his exploits as Spider-Man, where he's just like, I endorse baby powder. I apologize for baby powder. It's just so self-aware, but it's also
I made a mistake.
He's like on the YouTube thumbnail. I made a mistake. It's great. I love it. It's so self-aware of time.
Yeah.
It's so smart. What was the other thing? It was baby powder, and it was something else.
Well, he had to apologize for the apology.
Oh yeah, he apologized for the apology. Oh, it's great. He's like, I endorse baby powder. I apologize for baby powder. I made a mistake. Yeah, that's a great bit. Best battle in this movie?
Oh, the escape from the spider facility is bananas.
Yeah, it's nuts. It is nuts. Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah, there's
like that extended sequence, the chase through the city to the train. It doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. It's insane.
Yeah,
and there's so much happening.
Yeah,
like it's. I can't remark enough about the technological achievement of this movie. It's crazy.
How do you animate all of that?
It's wild. How do you just animate Spider-Punk the way they animated him? With a different frame rate.
Him on top of everything else.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Nuts.
That's also mine. Favorite cameo?
Insomniac Spider-Man.
Insomniac Spider-Man was great. I think... Oh yeah, Yuri Lowenthal did that. I think he also voiced another Spider-Man in there.
He said video games. You guys talking about me?
Yeah. So my favorite cameo in this movie is this PlayStation 5 Spider-Man 2 gameplay that they somehow put in there.
Yeah.
And then we got the confirmation that Peter has the mechanical arms in this game.
Yeah.
That Yankee's playing in the beginning. That's my favorite cameo.
That's good.
Because they asked Insomniac, hey, can we use some footage from the game and put it in the movie? And they're like, sure. Of course. Why would we say no? So I thought that was pretty cool. Best set?
Mumbattan.
Mumbattan is great. Mumbattan is
so
really
good.
Awesome. There's traffic here. Here's also the traffic. Traffic's also here. Oh, you know what the best bit actually is? It's the tea thing. He said, you wouldn't call it chai tea. It's just not chai tea, bro. That's like saying tea. I wouldn't have coffee with milk.
I love chai tea. What?
You what? I do like this Tim Burton-esque Earth 42
Gotham City? Yeah,
that
Gotham
just
City.
sucks. That has the Sinister Six gang just running amok. Yeah, I also like the way that 2099 is built. Like it's built like Coruscant, where it's like the upper city, like that, and then like the lower city, like slums. Like I think that's pretty interesting too. Mm-hmm. Best 1v1. There's the Spot versus Miles.
I like that quite a bit. That's such a creative fight. Mm-hmm. When he's like punching through holes, he punches himself in the head.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the.
But he fights. I guess he fights Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah, because they kind of get separated from everybody
yeah.
else, and it's the biggest plot point at that part of the movie. But I like that. I do like that Spot, and it's just I guess once March 29th, 2024 hits, it's gonna be the retroactive nature of it. Of look where they've this villain of the week has turned himself by word of mouth into his greatest nemesis. I think that's pretty cool. The one we've been waiting for, the best heat check performance. Sometimes these are not difficult, and it's Obi Brown. Yo, my name is Obi Brown.
He's just a force of nature the moment he comes on screen.
Daniel Kaluuya. Get that guy in everything. Let him voice everything.
Just took over.
Yeah, he did take over. And everybody was talking about him as he's one of the best characters in Spider-Man at this point.
Another role model. Was briefly a runway model. I hate labels.
I hate labels.
How are you even cooler under the mask?
Oh, man. I'm going to save it because I figured out what my favorite line from this movie is. Funniest moment, which is usually tough in these.
There's heaps.
There's heaps.
That bit that you talked about before with him apologizing for the baby powder.
It's so funny. It's so quick.
It's really funny.
He's like, I got a mustache? Mustache. Oh, he had to apologize. He said, I apologize for that?
That's right. I made a mistake.
Oh man, that's so tough to pick a funniest moment. I do like the comedy bit before they get into the serious bit when they meet Miguel, when they all go to see Miguel.
Yeah.
And like Mayday's just crawling over everything, and then she gets to Hobie, and Hobie's just like, kid took crap on the establishment. Oh man, it's good stuff. Best exposition dump.
Miguel explaining the canon events.
Yeah.
Like that's built to be an exposition dump.
Yeah. Best. That's all. I mean, it's tough not to not pick that one. Best source material callback. This movie is built on source material callback. Actually,
the Earth 42 thing, the spider with the spider,
nuts.
It's
insane.
probably the best one, right?
Freaking sane that they did that.
Because then you go back and watch Into the Spider-Verse, and that's all there.
Mm-hmm. And the big thing that people caught was when, I guess, the 1610 miles probably was supposed to turn into the Prowler because his spider sense was purple and green, and then once he sees Peter Parker, it kind of flips over.
The spider glitches.
Yeah. Yep.
On Miles' Earth.
And you don't think about it when you watch the first one, and then you're like, I guarantee you, they probably had all three of these like probably closely planned.
Feels that way.
From like 2015 when they started writing this movie.
Because it's all there.
Yeah, it is all there.
It's all there.
Yep.
It's nuts.
Wild. Best NPC. And I'll go even further. Best spider NPC.
I like it's the Metro Boomin guy.
Yep. You know what? This is tough because we're kind of agreeing on all these, but I'm gonna agree on that.
We're left to run. Nope, my bad, guys. Turns out there was somewhere to run.
Best spider NPC. You know what? I'll pick somebody different. I do like the Old West Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's just like, why does the horse need a mask to conceal her identity? And then he just goes right up into the air.
Oh, I like the bit where he goes, how can this get any weirder? And then the T-Rex in the Spider-Man costume comes through.
And it's like T-Whip instead of Thwip. Oh, man. Good stuff.
You're like, I guess that's how it gets weirder.
Good stuff. Favorite action sequence?
The escape.
Yep.
Escape.
Yep. Tough not to pick it. Best song?
Oh, Jesus. I mean, this one didn't have like a sunflower. Or like a What's Up Danger, but
I'm gonna argue that it did.
But it had some good ones.
I'm gonna argue that it did have one, and it's Dominic Fike's song that he had in here, Mona Lisa, when they're swinging throughout. That sequence was my favorite scene in the movie, so it's kind of built into it already. But I do think that song is gonna blow up if it not already. But I mean, the soundtrack, like I said earlier, is just phenomenal for this movie. Make sure you listen to the one that has the pieces of the score built into it. Mm-hmm. That's the one because it has all the soundtrack and then it has the parts, because that part has the follow up to that. On the other, I think it's Another Dimension is the name of the song on there. It's great. Favorite musical moment, so favorite score moment.
Gwen, anytime they have Gwen's suite playing while she's on her Earth, particularly when she talks to her dad, it's beautiful. That scene is that scene is perfect.
Yeah.
That's literally a perfect scene. Like, you can't do it better than how that scene was done.
I quite like the Spot theme.
Ominous one?
I like the part where they have that little mind trip moment, that little horror mind trip moment where he sees like his canon event taking place before it happens. Yeah. It is very
spooky.
It's peak spooky. What is your favorite line from this movie?
Man, it's hard not to just pick I'm gonna do my own thing. It's so perfect.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
It's perfectly delivered, by the way. Mm-hmm. like that's the movie. Like, sometimes, like, the best lines are the line that basically it's the mission statement.
Yeah,
it's the mission statement, and that's what the mission statement of this movie is. Miles is doing his own thing. He's not supposed to be who he is, but he's gonna do it anyway. And that's what that line is. That defiance that he didn't quite have in the first movie, that he's adopted now. Yeah, like it reminded me of the Tyrion Lannister quote from Game of Thrones when he's talking to Jon Snow, and he's like, he keeps calling him a bastard, and he's like, that's what you are, aren't you? Like, you're a bastard. And he's like, good, like, wear like a suit of armor, that way it can never be used to hurt you. And that's what Miles does. You know, he takes this idea that he's not supposed to be, and he's like, all right, if that's what I'm gonna be, that's what I'm gonna be, and I'm gonna break all the rules, basically.
It's such a tough one in a line. I do quite enjoy that line that Gwen gave her father when she goes back to her universe, where he's just like, I wear this mask as my badge, and I try to do it exactly how you did it. I think that's a perfect line, and it kind of sums up their whole arc in that movie together. And everything, you know, that team mentality, that band mentality she wanted to be a part of, but she couldn't fit into. Her relationship with her father just kind of all gets balanced on top of that line too. So I really love that. Like, just that little movement she has. She's like looking at the mask. She's just like, this mask is my badge, and I'm trying to do everything the way that you did it.
Yeah.
Best world building moment.
The canon event thing.
Yeah. Because
I think it's mine.
I'm gonna.
Well, it doubles down on kind of a little bit of like what No Way Home was nudging at when the rooftop scene.
Yeah.
When they're like, with great power comes great responsibility, and they finish it for him, and then he's like, how could you know that? And he's like, Uncle Ben said it the day he died. Like, it's the same. That's the same idea.
Yeah.
That they all share this traumatic event that made them who they are.
Yep.
So like No Way Home kind of nudged this idea, and then this movie obviously went full send with it.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the fact that there were live action cameos in this movie, because that was the question of this the question of Into the Spider-Verse when that came out, was the next natural progression is like, are they going to have Toby, Andrew, and Tom in these movies? I'm going to go even further, and it's going to kind of go hand in hand with the canon. It's what happened right before that he talked about the Spider-Verse. It's that same, you know, branching timeline from everything the MCU kept playing. They have an opportunity, and just based off other things we've heard about, like we've heard for Deadpool 3, they are going to bring back Halle Berry and James Marsden, and who plays Jean Grey?
Famke Janssen.
Yeah, they're going to bring them all back to play the three of them. Like,
yeah.
They have a true opportunity into Secret Wars, and I think they should take the mold from this. Like,
Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. Do the whole thing. Do the dumbest, craziest, most outlandish things that you can think of. Like, get all these characters. If you can even get them for 5 seconds, put them in there. That's the thing. Like, you're not just building off 12 years, of 15 years of stuff that's going on. You're building off of, 20, 30 years of what you were able to do in other movies. It's all, you made it all canon. Like, you did the heavy lifting to make everything incorporated in the same multiverse. So why not do everything? And this movie kind of solidified that. So that's kind of it for me, of like this idea that like now anything's on the table. Like, and I think reverse, like, I'm not going to be like, man, reverse. Someone called me the reverse.
The reverse Spider-Verse.
The reverse Spider-Verse. I would, like, imagine, like, a scene where, like, they all turn live action, and it's, like, Shameik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, and Issa Rae, and Oscar Isaac as, like, their versions of themselves dressed up. Again, like, I just see Oscar Isaac. I see the vision that they had for Oscar Isaac being too bad he had to be Moon Knight. Too bad he had to be Apocalypse. Remember when he was Apocalypse?
I do.
God. Favorite performance?
I'm gonna say Haley Steinfeld.
Me too. You stole it. You took it from me, Carmine. You took it. That was today.
Yeah, she's tremendous.
From the opening sequence.
She gets it.
Yep.
She just gets it.
She gets the Spider-Woman stuff too, like the spider part of it, like the quippiness of like being as like she like changes her voice at any time she's around her dad. It's awesome every single time. But she gets cut from that like Raimi-esque mold of like again that balance piece of like you can't have it all. You can't all these friends you push. Actually, that's more of like an Andrew Garfield mold of like you can't have these friends and you can't have the like. He did feel very alone in Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Like
he had no friends.
Essentially, right? Yeah, like, and it was intentional. Like he didn't have anybody.
He had Gwen.
Exactly. He had Gwen. And I think she had Peter. and she lost Peter. And I think she really understands that. So I just think she takes the best elements of what makes Spider-Man like one of the most recognizable characters, but it makes Peter Parker one of the most recognizable characters. She gets all of those.
Yeah.
Favorite character?
I'm gonna say Gwen Stacy.
Yep.
Ghost Spider, as she's known now. Spider Woman, whatever you want to call her. She's, you said it in the beginning. She's the soul of this movie, and it shows. It shows.
Man, it's real tough not to pick Miles in this, and I mean, I just wanted to highlight like Haley Steinfeld's performance, but it's just those scenes where Miles, and again, it's what I talked about last week with kind of like with Grant Gustin playing the Flash and like how he grew up while he was playing the role and how his character grew up. I just am such appreciating how I'm seeing Miles grow up. Like he was that 14 or that like 13, 14-year-old kid. Now he's this 15-year-old kid. He's going to be that 16-year-old set. Like he's growing up as like before our eyes as a character. And I think that's one of the best things you can do is as a creator of a character is make sure they not only do like their story progress, but they also need to progress too. They need to grow up. They need to face these life experiences too.
Yeah.
And then your favorite moment from this movie?
I mean, we've kind of danced around it the entire time. The Miles and Gwen in the skyline.
Yeah. So basically,
the inverted skyline.
Yeah. Did I say favorite shot?
No, but I already said what mine was.
Yeah, I'm gonna take any of they're super intentional with all the wides they use in the movie. I can go back to you had the wide in the spider room. You had the wide when he's jumping off the train. You had the wide from the sequence we're talking about. You had the wide from the Earth 42, and then you had the wide from when he's looking back at Brooklyn, and they're all super well done. But yeah, that moment I'd like to encapsulate that moment in it was she arrives, they start swinging through the city, and it's from the second she arrives and she's looking through his book and she sees him, and just like he's like, I'm grounded, and she's like, oh, that sucks. Is Spider-Man grounded? And then Mona Lisa starts playing by Donovan McFike, and like just the movements and the Spider-Man swinging is just incredibly well done. And then again, just leads all that, in my opinion, you needed to get to that moment where I forget where they were, but like they're walking and like the camera's tilted, but they're like walking around the thing. And then they kind of go up to like that gargoyle piece. They're just sitting there too. They have their tender moment. They're starting to fall in love. And it's just, that sequence is just...
Yeah, the inverted skyline it's gorgeous.
And like just the small attentions of detail, like her flipping her hair up and like it's staying that way, and like the camera not moving from her while she's walking around it to make sure she's standing upside down. Like, man.
Doesn't get any better than that.
The Spider-Man movies don't get better than that. No. Animated movies don't get better than that. Regular movies don't get better than that.
Yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah.
This movie somehow has to...
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Has to get people to realize that these movies are real.
Yeah.
Like, they're real movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's real things happening here.
Yeah.
Real...
why should we settle for stuff less than this? Less than Guardians 3? Like, we shouldn't. We shouldn't have to settle for stuff like that.
And, I mean, it's a battle Into the Spider-Verse fought and lost. And who knows if this one will be able to break through that ceiling of, like... This is a real movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real movie.
I mean, the last one had to win an Oscar and still had to get questioned of that. This one, I will be surprised if it doesn't follow up with another one to get coupled with that Oscar. And I just think it would be really cool if, third time's the charm, Beyond the Spider-Verse really, really kind of supplants itself. I mean, many people are calling this one of the best comic book movies of all time, and I think that statement is warranted.
Yeah.
And that has been Across the Spider-Verse. We'll see you on March 20. We're actually not recording another episode until March 24th.
If only that were true. But next week, we're doing another movie review.
Yeah.
It's the month of movie reviews.
You're the Beast Transformers from Transformers.
Yeah, it's Transformers time.
Transformers time.
Beast Wars, Rise of the Beasts, obviously adapting Beast Wars. Mm-hmm. I'm excited.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to this thing.
I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm going to watch all the Transformers movies before I get to
do that to yourself.
Why? What do you mean I can't watch Transformers Dark of the Moon?
Bumblebee was great. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that. I think somebody over there gets it now. Mm-hmm. Why are Transformers movies compelling? Because of the Transformers?
Yeah.
So hopefully, I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be action heavy. Mm-hmm. Not the trailer that came out today. I didn't watch it, but the trailer before, some of the action sequences look pretty stellar.
Yep.
And that's ultimately what I want in a Transformers movie. Give me some cool, unique action.
Yep. Pete Davidson is a Transformer, which people are going to love.
Pete Davidson's back.
Yep.
Somehow Pete Davidson returned.
Anthony Ramos is, he's on the rise of his career too, and I think to get a movie like this under his belt is pretty cool. The 90s setting is pretty cool too, so are they going to do the X-Men thing, where they just do a decade for each movie until they get to Sam Witwicky?
I don't know.
First Transformers movie came out in 2007. That's insane to me.
That is insane.
That's nuts.
I don't want to think about that anymore.
I really don't. That really bothers me. I remember seeing that movie in theaters too.
Yeah, me too.
What's the first movie? We'll end it like this. What's the first movie you saw in theaters?
That I remember seeing?
Yeah, I just thought about this because of Spider-Man and like how it made me feel.
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour is the first movie. That's irresponsible.
That's the first movie I remember having a vivid memory of in theaters.
How old were you when that movie came out?
Rush Hour?
Yeah.
I don't know what year it came out.
Rush Hour original?
1998, so I was 7.
Okay. And that was summer 1998, I'm assuming, if it's like a comedy blockbuster with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. I'm assuming that movie came out probably in the summer.
Came out in September.
In September, so end of the fall season, beginning of fall.
Yeah.
Man, I was a solid month away from being here.
Yeah, I was 7. That's the first movie I have a vivid theater memory of.
Funny enough, you know what my first theater memory I have? The original Sam Raimi Spider-Man 1. I was 2002. That movie came out in the summer. I think that movie actually did, or something like that. Mm-hmm. I was probably 2002. I was probably 3 when that movie came out. I was probably 3 going on 4, and I just remember being in the aisle of the movie theater because I was probably a dumb kid that couldn't sit still. But my parents always tell me that I was running around, and when Green Goblin showed up, I would yell, "Get him, Spider-Man!" in the theater. So yeah,
get him, Dad.
Yeah, I am Django Fett. But I do remember, I don't know why I remember, but I do remember like being in the aisle of the theater because the way the theater was built, that obviously the theaters, it's the same theater that I'm still going to now, just remixed a little bit.
Yeah.
I was at the AMC days of that theater. But yeah, there was the aisle in the middle instead of like the row seating in like the whole middle of the thing. But I remember just standing in the aisle during that movie too. So, and 21 years later, we have Across the Spider-Verse, and still some really incredible movies being made.
Yeah,
and that's why we do it. That's why we do it.
Man,
what a movie! What a picture!
It's so good. All right, guys, that's it for us for this week.
Let's get out of here.
You can follow us on Twitter at @ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. New episodes of the podcast are posted every Wednesday on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. You can follow us on Instagram.
At the Project Infinite Pod.
Thank you.
Other universe me forgets to do that.
Next week, Transformers Rise of the Beast.
Oh, we're not going to talk about Dark of the Moon? I'm actually out. Unless we talk about The Last Night, I'm not recording.
Don't do this.
They put poor old Anthony Hopkins in that movie. Actually, instead of talking about Rise of the Beasts, we're going to talk about the ludicrous nature of all of Michael Bay's movies. Because they're nuts.
They are nuts.
Even better yet, we're just going to talk about the amount of actors that were in that movie. That, like, your Oscar winner, Frances McDormand, what are you doing in Transformers Dark of the Moon?
Helen Mirren is in Fast and Furious, so...
But that's cinema.
You got me there.
So...
This is true.
Your Oscar award nominee, Brie Larson, what are you doing here?
Yeah, man. That's it. From me, from the...
Careful, man.
Come on, man. Don't do this.
It's always funny.
From the Hobie Brown of the podcast.
Yes, I am anti-establishment. Oh, that's my true favorite line in the movie. When Mbatten was starting to get absorbed into nothingness, and Hobie and like the piece was the Taj Mahal starts falling in, and they're like, what is that? And Toby's like, it's a metaphor for capitalism. I was like, this guy's the greatest.
I thought you hated labels.
I do. Oh, I love that line where he's just like, I hate comedy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, the Hobie Brown of the podcast.
I'll take it.
How is he even cooler under the mask?
I was cool this whole time, bro.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Transformers. I can't wait. It's gonna be a good time. Yeah. Rise of the Beast Wars. Giant robot gorilla. Man, what else do you need?
Can't wait to talk about Agent of Extinction.
Don't do this.
Oh my god, they put poor what's his name, Stanley Tucci in that movie.
What if Mark Wahlberg shows up at the end of this?
No. One? I do think I have a. What if they do
Shia LaBeouf.
What if Kid Shia LaBeouf shows up?
No. No.
Man,
they should have just made those movies about Megan Fox's character.
Would have been more interesting.
Yeah,
or more interesting past.
Yeah, she was a better character.
She was a better character. Who's winning in a race, Shia LaBeouf or Usain Bolt? The guy was moving.
Come on, man. They really do call Shia LaBeouf a poor man's Tom Cruise.
I'm not gonna lie, man. Y'all don't know about Disturbia.
It's a good movie.
It is. We gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta go, man. All right, we'll see you next week for Transformers. Goodbye.
Peace.